Welcome to the Joy Quota Podcast. I'm Dylan Fole.
And I'm Gavin Malcolm.
Our guest tonight is Mike Vigil.
This dude is awesome. I met him a long time ago over spaghetti, but we really got to meet him drinking, throwing axes, shooting clays at his soon-to-be brother-in-law's bachelor party. You guys are going to love this guy. He is so intelligent and just so wonderful and funny. Enjoy. I love the floor because it's always the coolest spot. So I'm sure Allie was like, come to bed. And I was like, you're 1 million degrees. And I am so hot. I'm going to sleep on this floor. And so I just crawled under the table so no one would fuck with me, I'm sure. And then just woke up in the morning and had to step over her cousin who was passed out on the stairs. And I was like, good God. This got out of hand. There's 100 people.
Yeah, I'm glad that camping went the way that it did. How I said it didn't feel that bad.
Yeah,
because
now kept it mellow.
If I get I'm scared for football season this year because now if I get buzzed on a Sunday, Friday, I really start coming back to my full self just in time to do it again.
What?
Yeah.
It takes 5 days.
I get tired, man. I just get so sleepy. And then if I'm drinking beer and I start coming down from a beer buzz, point of no return. I just get sleepy and I can't come back from it.
Wow.
Yeah, and I just pass out.
Oh, damn. We should have a stack or... Should we have a stack for you ready to go?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, we can. That always works.
That's wild.
Yeah, man, I just get sleepy now. I don't know what it is. I turn 27 next week, and me and my friend always have this discussion. When you hit 25, it's just this brick wall of oldness, and now my knees hurt and my hips hurt sometimes for no reason. It's
I remember this. I remember 25 invincible, 26 I was I might be slightly vincible. I wouldn't say I'm definitely vincible, but there's potentially some cracks in the dam.
I'm still invincible. I'm 32, so...
Okay. Well, I'm going to need to start drinking Gentleman's Jack then.
That is
it could
not
be
the
that.
key.
No, it's not.
It could be the green vegetable, kale, blueberry mix.
Yeah, they say something about eating healthy is good for you.
They do say something about that.
Yeah, it's not Tom Brady's still
mentioned
playing
it.
at a high level, yeah.
They have mentioned it once or
That's
twice.
probably my favorite thing I've ever heard, and I'm going to steal that from you, Mike.
No, I think...
so good. Especially because you said it so slow. You're yeah, I guess that is a thing.
No, I when I was... What was it? So I deployed when I was... 20. I turned 21 in Afghanistan, and I was in the worst shape of my life. Up to that point, I wrestled and played sports all the time, so I didn't have to be healthy because it was just always active and being a kid. And then deployed, and I was out of nowhere. So high school, I wrestled 120 pounds. And
that is unreal.
Off season, I was anywhere from 140 to 145, and cutting all that weight. But it was okay. Because it was metabolism was rocking and stuff.
Oh my God.
And then joined the military. Was eating. Actually, so I made a bet with somebody I couldn't eat chicken fingers for 30 days straight. So I ate chicken fingers because they were free. So I ate chicken fingers and I was you know what, metabolism's awesome. Well, before I know it, I'm 176 pounds when I deploy. Couldn't pass a PT test, which was a mile and a half run. I couldn't even do that.
Whoa.
And then I had to take a step back and I was oh crap, I'm in some horrible shape. And then I got there and met a dude who was all into CrossFit and nutrition and stuff. So I started doing that. And from 21 to probably 25, just oddly obsessed with fitness and eating well and nutrition and all that stuff, and I got burnt out on it. And now I think that's what's happened. I'm finding the effects of not being active all the time and not being healthy is just taking this massive toll on my body. I'm just man.
Yeah,
because it's a slow process either way generally, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can't work out one time and expect to feel good. And that's why I made the conscious decision when I was 24, 25, I'm going to see what this healthy eating thing is about and hope that, now it's still paying off. I don't know why I originally thought that, but it's
yeah, I don't know. It's because when I came back in January, so January to November, I think I could probably count on one hand the amount of like not clean food that I ate.
Yeah.
Like I was just so into it and like made awesome progress, and now I'm like thinking back to it, I'm like, man, that was such a long time of like dedication. Now to think that I have to probably start at like 0, do that all again, and then like fitness is like not something that you just like complete, you know, it's like the rest of your life kind of thing. And I'm like, geez, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of dedication. And like counting macros every day, like I was down to like,
Oh, you were like deep into the CrossFit game then. Like
yeah, like, and I was down to like measuring my food down to the ounce per meal per, like, it was crazy. Then 2 years ago, I think I did like a carb cycling for the first time. And even on like my low carb days, I think I was only having 4 ounces of carbs for 2 days, no carbs. And then on Wednesdays was like 14 ounces of carbs. Like it wasn't a lot of carbs.
Nuts.
And yeah, it was just experimenting with that. It was cool, but yeah, now it's just like I can't imagine. I like fat tire. I like all these things.
Yeah,
you know?
that's a little bit excessive. We celebrate Bacon Cheeseburger Friday pretty regularly, so there's a balance.
I think you're aiming for somewhere around 80%. Like, as long as I'm still physically fit enough to do like any of the things that I really enjoy,
Yeah.
and I'm not like genuinely feeling terrible, I feel like I'm right around that like 70 to 80% range of like, I'll eat terrible for 3 days and I'll eat great for 4 or 5 days, and I'll eat terrible for 3 days, and like.
Is that 80%? Let's do the math on that. I don't have a calculator in front of me, but I think 3 days on, 4 days off is not quite 80%.
It's almost a 50% split right there. It's like you're going 60-40.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
That's
honestly
okay.
happy with 60-40. It seems to be all right so far.
Yeah.
As long as, and some weeks are like 30-70, like it's just all junk food, and then other weeks it's like I cooked up 9 pounds of chicken, so it's time to make my way through that and some broccoli. But
Yeah, I told my girlfriend now, because like when we first started dating, I was like in the mix of like really being back at it again. It was like 2 years ago, and now I just told her, I was like, as long as I'm healthy and like can be active without dying, like I'm pretty good, you know.
yeah.
I keep blaming a lot of things on the altitude here, but I've been here for almost a year, so I think I just need to
Yeah, I was gonna say
you
do a little bit
from
more.
here, so I don't
Yeah.
think that counts either.
I was gone
You get
though for
3
like
years.
7 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, if you're gone for more than 3 years, you lose it, and then
is
it
that really
takes.
a thing?
That's what people say.
Yes, it's true.
Yeah, the science is in.
Sounds
Yeah,
rigorous
true.
as nuts.
the science is in.
I like that.
Well, so it's funny. I had no interest in any of it until we went camping for Jamar's bachelor party, and then watching Jamar and Trevor just crush that Atlas stone. I was like, I'm gonna put on some weight for the wedding, man. I'm gonna bulk up so I don't look like I'm about to blow away in the wind next to these dudes.
I know. I like how we're like sitting there, like, yeah, if you just bend your knees and keep your back tight, and then Trevor just grabs it and is like, yeah,
Yeah, they're both just
15.
tricep pressing it.
They're
Like,
just like, it's a little rough. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
like sweaty and like kind of having the beer burps while I'm cooking the burgers and like trying to play
Right,
it
this
off
was
over
like
there.
at 11, 12 at night after drinking for 5 hours. They decide they want to lift
yeah,
100-pound weight
9
above their
pounds
heads.
of brats.
Yeah.
And they made it look so easy, and I'm surprised they even got it off the ground.
I was very afraid for every ligament in your body. I was like, I was like, that was pretty rough, but like, I forget that you're like significantly lighter than me. So I was like, yeah, Dylan, like, just lift up the 100-pound bag. You're fine. And then, yeah, guys, it's like 2/3 of my body weight. I don't think that was a good idea.
When he had
It
mentioned the
worked out.
Atlas stone shooting, I thought he was kidding. And he's like, you guys ready to lift the Atlas stone tonight? And I was like, haha, that's pretty funny. And then he popped it out, and I was like, oh my gosh.
Dude,
This guy's serious.
so I was with Jamar later that day, like recouping at the pool. Trevor bought a 200-pound Atlas stone. And him and Jamar went to the park and threw that thing around. I was like, what? Who's just picking up a 200-pound Atlas stone? You break the suspension in your car, man.
Especially because it's floppy, too, so it makes it like 10 times harder.
Yeah.
And yeah, he just handled it. And I was just like, what the
So I'm
Yeah.
trying to get whatever those crazy neck muscles Jamar has. You got
traps.
some massive traps too, because the suspenders otherwise are gonna look weird.
Yeah.
Like no one wants to see suspenders on just like a slender man's body. It's got to be like, gah! So that's just.
Do you have a month to get traps? I don't know about that.
I don't think I don't have them, but I need them to. I bet I could make them better.
You could probably go
Just
get like a couple like
HGH.
50-pound, 60-pound dumbbells and just farmers carry everywhere you go around the house all night.
That's my thought. Yeah, it's like
sore.
Just only that for like 30 minutes a day. I bet you.
Then you'll have to button the suspenders up there because they're just like such a massive slope.
Yeah. The only problem is it's not a muscle I'm actually particularly interested in having because it doesn't seem useful for much. It seems really inconvenient.
If you ever, I guess if you want to carry like 100-pound things like this, like I mean, it comes in handy, yeah.
Because for BMX, like you need to be like limber. That's the fitness I'm trying to get towards, and I just can't bring myself to fully submit. It's like all of the stuff that's so boring of like stretching a lot and doing resistance bands and like a lot of like very low intensity things that are just like so good for your body. Dylan does them, and supposedly Tom Brady does them, and that's like he claims that's like his key to success, but
it is.
I just
certainly is.
Can't do it yet.
Yeah, mobility is like my favorite thing to learn about. Was my favorite thing to do. Now, like I said, I think
now I learned each ingredient in a fat tire.
Yeah. And I've like regressed so far that I'm like, dang, to get that flexible again, it's gonna take like a good 8 months to do that.
Yeah.
Like I stopped skateboarding. I skateboarded a lot as a kid, and like I would land like some crazy ways where like my heel would touch my forehead, and I'd be like, oh crap, like, I'm good. Now, no. Like, you know, it gets like some mornings, I sit like that. Big toes asleep in like 10 seconds. Just like, oh no, this is not good. Yeah.
Oh boy, dude, we should get you and Jamar in a game of skate. He just picked up a deck again for the first time in like years and years and years.
Is he just he's probably naturally good at it, isn't he?
Well, I mean, he was good at it as a kid.
Yeah.
But he's also definitely rusty. That'd be an epic game.
I like it.
I'm on board for that because I've gone to the park with him a couple times, and like some days he's off, some days he's on.
I'd be down for that.
Yeah.
I'm not doing any stairs anymore. Like I said, like my limbs will pop off like twigs. They'll just pop right off.
Man, well, so let's talk about how we know you. So our friends Jamar and Nicole are getting married in a month, and you're Nicole's brother, which is pretty rad because now we've officially had like almost every part of the Jamar Nicole family on board. So we'll get all of you guys Pokemon style. But
that'd be pretty fun.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about yourself for the people who don't know you, who haven't gotten to spend 5 hours drunk around a campfire shooting the breeze.
All right. So I grew up around Littleton, Lakewood area. Went to Dakota Ridge High School here, and when I all throughout like high school and stuff, I was so involved in sports and like social, and like so focused on like getting like a wrestling scholarship, but didn't realize like you have to do good in school too. And so like I would just like not do good in the school, and then by the time like I realized I needed to do good in school, it was just like unsalvageable. I think I graduated with like a 2.2 grade average. It was awful, man. And so after that, my like parents were talking to me like, what are you gonna do? And I kind of looked at my dad and I was like, well, I'm living with Dad now, you know, maybe I could just live with him for a little while and figure it out. And then they both took me to a restaurant and they sat me down, and my dad just straight up was like, you can't live with me.
Yeah.
And then I looked at my mom like, Mom, you saved me all the time. And she was just put her head down, like, because they're like trying to push me into joining the military. I didn't really want to do that. And then eventually, you know, I ended up joining the military, January 2012. So yeah, I was 19, joined the military, went to Florida, and I was like, sweet, Florida's really cool. And then they're like, yeah, you're only gonna be here like 2 months. And I was like, damn. So we're in class, and then everybody gets their orders, and so they sat us by like last name, and V, I was always at the end. Well, everybody gets their orders and they're passing them out. Everybody's getting like South Carolina, Florida, California. One guy went to Germany, and like all their top choices. So I'm like, sweet, because my top choices were Washington, Florida, I think 2 Florida bases. So I was like really excited to get my first thing, and they landed at Arkansas.
Oh.
And I like am thinking like, map. I didn't do good in school. I don't know where the hell Arkansas is. No idea in the world. Well, and so one guy had...
You're all excited. I'm going out of country.
Right. Yeah, I'm like, yeah, they're sending me to the moon. And so one guy has Salt Lake City, and this other girl has like this really remote town in like New Mexico. But they're like, hey, we're both willing to trade. We don't care where we go. So I'm thinking Salt Lake City, I've heard that before. So, I mean, that's a step up, you know. And my instructor came from Arkansas, and he's like, oh, man, it's the best place I've ever been. I've been in for 15 years. I'd go back in a second. I'd retire there. And so now I'm thinking, I have this gold mine of orders here. I'm going to Arkansas. Show up. I'm telling you guys, if you guys ever get the chance to go to Arkansas, deny it. Do not go to Arkansas. It is just the weirdest place. Then I tell this story. People think I'm lying. I called my dad. So my dad drove out there with me, and which is really cool. Like, we took a road trip. I drove for like 30 minutes and complained, and then he drove the rest of the way and was like really pissed off. But we get there, and as he's leaving, and it was like the most, I don't know how to explain it, like almost like, what did I get myself into? Yeah. As he's leaving at the airport, he puts his hand on my shoulder and was like, have fun, bud. And just left, and I was like, oh no. So
that's
like,
not how you say it if you mean it.
Yeah, and he was trying to be nice about the fact that Arkansas was awful. And then you know, on top of that, I had to stay in a hotel for like 2 weeks because I didn't have my room ready. But yeah, it was just like, I'm there and like a new kid in a new place, and not even like a fun new place, and just like kind of like, yeah, what the hell did I get myself into, kind of thing. And but I tell this story. So he leaves like probably 2 weeks later. I'm driving down the highway. So everywhere there is highway driving, and this guy in a pickup truck comes by, and I don't know if it's fake or if it's real to this day, but he drives by in a pickup. And I look over, this guy in a pickup with his shirt off, and there's a deer in the passenger seat. I hope it was fake. I don't know, but it's a deer seatbelted in the passenger seat, just like chilling with his head back. And like a buck, maybe
he clearly like hit it or
something. And I'm just like in awe, like, what the hell is going on here? Where am I at? And so I call my dad. He thinks I'm lying. I think he probably still thinks I'm lying to this day, but I try to tell people that story, like that's the tone that was set for me when I first got to Arkansas.
Yeah, day one.
And it lived up to the hype. Like, I was stationed with some weird people who, like, this one
was this the crazy dude?
Yeah, the crazy guy I told you. He's like the habitual liar who believed everything he said. So I said, like, when he said he was deployed, he was throwing mortars out of the back of planes because like the ammo system stopped working. And you know,
like the craziest story.
His ghillie suit was. Did I ever tell you that story? Were you up at that time?
No, I probably I missed that. And our listeners are interested now. Yeah.
So if you're in your car, make sure you're buckled up. You might want to pull over. This is the most insane story ever.
So he would like progressively like lie bigger, and so one of the first things he did was invited me to his house for dinner. So I'm like, oh, that's cool. Like, that's really nice. And he's this Italian guy, so he cooks awesome Italian food. So I get there, and we had raviolis, and they were like easily like one of the best meals I've ever had in my life. And so we eat raviolis, we sit down, and I think it was The Hobbit. He turned The Hobbit on. And so we're like watching The Hobbit.
Such a weird detail.
Yeah. And this is
so like great because that's before the actual like good Hobbits came out, right? Like,
yeah, it was the very first one. And the only thing, we didn't watch the whole movie because he did that weird stuff after. Wait, that sounded awful, but we're watching, and it's, if you've seen The Hobbit, you know the part where they're cleaning dishes, like in that super extra way. So that happens. He goes to the room and comes out, and he's like, "Hey, what do you see?" And I was like, "I don't know, nothing." And then he lifts his shirt up, and he has guns just like holstered around this like neoprene like thing, and you can't see him in his shirt. He's like, "You see that? I could have 10 guns on me at any time. You'd never know." And I was like, "Okay." And then he pulls out like these dual-wielded like Desert Eagles out of his back, and he's like, "Check these guys out." And I'm like sitting there like, "What is going on?" And then he just like calmly tells me, "Yeah, man, I could kill you anywhere in this house." And I was just like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, I got stuff to kill you in every room."
Just
And then,
stashed
like,
away, hidden away. I tap on that weird piece of mantle above the fireplace.
Yeah.
Glock 9 comes out, no problem. Scooby-Doo, it's a Scooby-Doo house.
And so we go into the dining room, and there's like this katana on the wall, and he's like, "So what do you see in here?" And I'm like kind of looking around, and I'm like, "Oh, there's a sword on the wall." He's like, "Right." And so he picks it up, and he goes, "What if I go like this?" And I'm like, "I don't know." Like, it's a sword. And he's like, "Well, block it." And so I go like this, and he like, there's a dagger in the handle, and he goes, "Dead." I was like, "What's going on?" And so like he does this. He takes me to this maze of a house and just tells me all these ways he could kill me in every room. And I'm like really uncomfortable.
Why?
It sounds like such a nice evening.
So we get to the kitchen, and then he's like, "Oh, by the way, I brew my own moonshine." I'm like, "Of course you do." And so he pulls out this jar of moonshine and gives me like this a drink of it. And it's like a big old swig of it. Never had moonshine. There's like apple pie moonshine. It was pretty good. So I do that. Well, I start to kind of get a little drunk, you know? And then I'm kind of thinking like, "Oh, cool. At least they'll let me hang out here for a little bit, whatever." Well, he smacks me on the back. Boom. "See you at work tomorrow." And I'm like buzzing, walking out to my car. I'm 19 years old. And he wants me to drive back onto the Air Force Base. And then he goes, "Hey, by the way, you weren't here tonight." And I was like, "What is going on?" So it was like this guy. That was, like I said, my first couple weeks there. And then...
That's the most Arkansas story. It's so great.
And then I was there for 4 years with this dude. And it was just weird things. He ended up taking over the shop, and we went out to his camping or his hunting spot on base, and he's like,
I cannot believe you went anywhere with that guy where he could actively be shooting and no one would question.
Well, no, we were actually at work, so we were in uniform and stuff.
Okay.
He went out, bought me lunch, and we come back on base, and like he actually got in trouble when he was in charge because he would just like disappear for 8 hours. And like no one knew where he
Booby
went.
trap something someplace.
Yeah. So we go out to his hunting spot on base, and he's like, "Yeah, I like to post up right here." And I was like, "That's pretty cool." And he's like, "Yeah, I got this ghillie suit." Well, he said he had a ghillie suit. He would dig a mud hole in his backyard, throw his ghillie suit in there, throw deer piss on it, and mud and sticks and grime and like all these things, and let it like marinate there for like a day.
Marinate for a day.
And then he would dry it out. Well, he's like, "Yeah, my ghillie suit was so good, I went and laid out right here, covered myself in sticks and stuff, and you know, I was laying there with my rifle. Well, a deer came up and started eating off my belly, so I stood up and grabbed my pistol and shot him in the neck." And just like, that's how he hunted his deer. And then he said he just threw it in the truck and went home. And I was like, this guy is outrageous.
Yeah,
so,
he's outrageous if that's not true. He's out of his mind if it is true.
Yeah. So like that was my 4 years there, like with that guy. But then I also met 3 people who I still to this day talk to every day. And actually just 3 months ago was the first time since 2016 that we've all been in the same country, which is pretty cool. Yeah, so we have a group chat. One guy won't get an iPhone, so we don't text him. So we only talk to him over Facebook. But yeah, it was pretty cool. I met a couple of really good guys there. From there, I deployed Afghanistan. Met a couple guys there I still talk to every day. From there, South Korea, and then there, Tucson, Arizona. And there is actually where I met most people who now are like my best friends.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much been my journey in life. And then I got out in 2018, June, worked in Tucson for a couple months, and then got a job here and came back home in January or February. So
yeah,
been a long journey to get home, but I was about to come home last summer, but I was really adamant on like, I want to come home the right way. Like, I don't want to just come home and then get here and be scrambling looking for a job or like not have a plan.
Yeah.
And so I had an opportunity in Tucson, so I took that and just kind of went through that. I didn't enjoy it. It was kind of it was a civil service job, so it was kind of like getting out of the military and then going back in. Like,
Yeah, but like a less exciting version.
yeah, on like a different capacity. And so it was kind of bummed because like leaving base was like such a exciting thing, like such a huge milestone, and then 2 months later, like I turned around and drove back on base, and I was like, oh man. But yeah, so then just waited it out until I got the right opportunity and then came home. So it's been my journey.
Well, I think what's cool is, at least when we were talking at the fire, like, you've really found something you're passionate about that you're doing for work, and like you said, it was very intentional. Like, you are a very like thought out person,
Mm-hmm.
and you had planned on like getting this specific job and really pulled for it, and that's part of your journey in Tucson, was like setting yourself up for this gig. What's it like now that you have this job that you're super fired up about, and what do you feel like kind of you've learned along the way of like differences from like you've worked jobs you hated in order to get the job you wanted, and now you have a job that you're really excited about? What is it like, the difference?
Yeah, I was like going like my last year in the military, I had a much different outlook on it, but I allowed myself to be like, or like made the decision to be like so negative my first like 5.5 years, and it was just like the most exhausting thing I've ever done to myself. It's just like go through every day like, oh my gosh, there's a job I have to go to, I don't want to do this, like 3 years and 2 days, now I only have 5 years and 363 days left. I'm like,
Yes.
you know, and so now it's like with his job, I'm learning like there's things with every job, you know, that are gonna get in the way and like stress you out, and so I'm going through those things. But having gotten this job and like knowing that I worked so hard to get here, and like everything worked out because of work that I had put in, and you know, kind of visualize the goal, it makes me more proud than anything. And then like to be able to go there and like get these parts in, and I go to x-ray them and I'm not really sure what they're for, and then like learning, for me, like I love space, love everything like that, and learning, hey, these are going on a satellite that we're launching in a couple months, it's gonna run all GPS for Japan. And then I'm just kind of thinking like, holy crap, that's really cool, like I get to, you know, be a part of that. So it's a lot different to like be pumped about what I'm doing, you know, despite some of the things that we're going through at work and like the hard times. It's awesome to be able to finally go to work and do some stuff that like I leave like feeling super accomplished and super happy and proud about. But like I said, I think it's just because I made the decision to be so negative before, and now I'm a lot more like put in a lot more effort to make the decision to be positive, regardless of if it is a pretty negative situation or, but yeah, it's been pretty cool.
Was it this job that like made you decide to be more positive, or was there a moment before that where you were like, being negative sucks, like I need to shift that thinking?
Yeah, actually it was being home actually. So I got home, moved in with my dad. I've always looked up to my dad a lot. We were close growing up, but I always had a problem with like kind of like with the grades and stuff. I didn't have a very good work ethic growing up. I joined the military, and not gonna lie, I spent a lot of years being like kind of bitter towards my parents, because I looked at it as like, you guys sent me away rather than you guys were trying to do something that was gonna benefit me in the future. But yeah, I'd moved in with my dad. So my dad, my stepmom, and my little sister. She's 10 years younger than me. And so when I left, she was 9 years old. Now she'll be 17 at the end of this month. And she was one person I just always wanted to get back to. And so to come home and like be able to talk to my dad about, you know, my job and, all these things, and to hear him like tell me he's proud of me and stuff. And kind of realizing, like, and I told him multiple times, and I try to tell him all the time because I can't tell him enough, just like, thank you for forcing me to do that. And then he's part of a country club, and as kids, like, you're a member up till you're 26. Well, I surpassed that, and when he talked to them, was like, he was gone all that time, can we just have one summer with him? So they gave it to me. And I remember the day we were out on the golf course up at Red Rocks, and on hole 8. So when you turn around and look, you see all the foothills and like the fairway, and like, it's just the most beautiful thing like I've ever seen. And I was just kind of sitting there, and I was like, at this job that I finally like, I have a plan, I'm looking to buy a house, I'm spending this time with my family, like 4 or 5 times a week we're out here golfing. And I was just kind of like, things aren't so bad. Like, there's nothing so negative that it's going to take away from all of this. And like, I'm so lucky to be here right now and be doing these things. And so I think just coming home helped me look back on all of these years that I went through things being so negative, and then like realizing it got me to where I'm at now. And so I think it was just that really early on coming home, and now every situation I just try to look at it as like a positive rather than a negative. So I was like a naturally negative person for a long time.
That's so awesome though that you got to shift out of that, because I feel like so many people don't, and it's so rare to be able to find that. And it's like, that's what you need. Like, you're never going to find joy.
Well, like, I was told my friends, so I have 2 friends who, one of
You'll get to 3.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, No, I have 2 friends that like I'm really close with, and we kind of bonded a lot over music, and like the way that they'll like analyze music the way that I do. And like, but I told them after the camping trip, it was like, that was one of like, just like sitting around and having those conversations, that was like something I needed so bad that I didn't even know that I needed. And I was like, I left on Sunday just feeling like super, I'd say, refreshed. Like, and like there was like this weight kind of off my shoulders kind of thing. Cause like, I do take a moment to kind of see, like, I'm grateful for this, I'm grateful for that. But I don't think I necessarily share that with a lot of people that look at things that way. Mm-hmm. And so to like, we're sitting there, and then you're like, hey guys, everybody, 3 things you're grateful for.
Yeah, dude, you got to go through the 3 things you're grateful for. Anytime your friends get together, you got to.
Well, and then I was kind of expecting like everybody to say some goofy stuff. Well, people started really reflecting on things they were grateful for, and like some of them were really long-winded answers, but like good answers. And then so I was like, that's pretty cool. And it kind of got to kind of how I told you later on in the night, like there's some things I'm so grateful for that I feel like I need to say thank you like a million times a day, but I like can't tell people thank you a million times a day. But yeah, so it was just awesome to have those conversations finally, like, and like find other people who aren't afraid to like talk about that kind of thing, because a lot of people are like, a lot of people don't take the time to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I remember my friend Sarah taught me this a long time ago. She said that like all of the negative emotions in life, there's tons of them, but there's only 2 things that will ever break that. 2 things that will get you out, and it's gratitude, being thankful, or joy, or the way she puts it is like laughter, like humor. Like those are the only 2 things. Mm-hmm. And I think most people are dying to just let some of that out, and there isn't like a good platform because there's no smooth segue into just like, hey guys, we're all having a good time, why don't we put the brakes on all of the festivities and just talk about our feelings for 5 minutes. Like, yeah, right? There's no smooth way. Like, you're gonna have to do some 4x4 to get to that place. And so,
well, but that's what Kevin's best at. It's just, I mean, like, no matter what the situation, everybody, 3 things you're grateful for.
Yeah, it's something I'm very grateful for. Whatever reason, I've just always been like comfortable being the whipping boy for like, all right, like I'm the one to make it weird, but I know that like
Yeah.
someone here is going to be so glad that we like I got to learn so much about you and about like all the guys. Like you said, it was like I've never done that except for maybe once or twice where people, and I mean we do it all the time, and I can only think of maybe 2 times where I didn't walk away like feeling changed, like wow, I learned something about someone, I learned something about myself. Maybe it was like even sometimes like I've learned things like, oh wow, that's like a gap in my armor, or like that's a blind spot for me, is like look at them being. I remember the first time someone was like, I'm grateful for music.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, damn, like that is so big. It's something I am never not listening to music, and it's never once occurred to me to be thankful for it. That's crazy. And then I went down like a different rabbit hole of like, what are other things that I'm just crazy, like I'm just using it all the time and I'm just taking it for granted, you know? And I did it with Allie's family while we were at our family reunion out in Cleveland this past weekend. Like, it's probably 3 a.m. and everyone's having a good time and talking about this and talking about that. And what was funny is we started with probably 5 of us, and I really believe that like people want to be a part of situations like that. By the end of it, almost every person in this massive party had found their way to a dark corner in the yard that we were hiding in to do this, and found their way over there and got excited and like shared. And like there were these guys who were like not sensitive guys who were just like speechless at how much they loved their wife. And I was like, I'm so glad she gets to see you feel this way about her in front of everyone. Like every time you tell her that you love her, like she probably doesn't know that it's the kind of love that leaves you speechless in front of strangers. Like, how cool is this? So I'm glad that was a cool spot, man. I had a blast that weekend too. That was super fun.
Yeah, like you said, it's like I think you start pulling a lot of things out of people that they feel or whatever, but when you put it into words, it's like it's different. Like it feels a lot different. Like, you know, putting what you're grateful for into words and speaking it out loud is like, I don't know, I think it's like 10 times bigger than what you feel just thinking it to yourself. So that was really cool. That was a cool experience for me.
Dude, it was a cool experience for me. I had a blast, and axe throwing didn't hurt either.
The axe throwing was pretty awesome. I only made one all night. We stayed up till 4:30. I made one all night. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I made that one and I quit. Yeah.
While you're on top, right?
Yeah. Then I was on Facebook, and this girl I'm friends with, she was like, to no surprise, I'm just a natural at this, and was just hucking bullseyes.
What?
Like with 2 hands, just hucking bullseyes, and I was like, that's ridiculous.
Oh, that's an unfollow situation. You don't need that in your life.
Yeah, she
That's
does that,
crazy.
and like,
To be fair, the axes are not
They're not
competition
heavy or
quality.
anything.
They are.
No.
They're
tough.
tactical.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're a bit tougher than your standard.
Yeah,
throwing
where like
axe.
all the weight is in the head of the axe. Yeah.
yeah, that's what it was. The weight distribution was off. I thought something was wrong.
That's
with
yeah.
it.
It
That's what
wasn't
it was.
regulation, and
Yeah.
that's
Yes.
where
Yeah. Yeah, I'm used to
Yes.
like competition axes.
Okay.
So I've hucked a few bullseyes in my day.
Yeah. I'm familiar with the center of a target. Don't get me wrong. Not a clay, but dude. So for those of you who are listening, we were all a part of Jamar's bachelor party a weekend or 2 ago, and we were all pretty confident going into shooting clays. At least reasonably confident. I was like, I'll hit something.
Oh, in my head,
And
I
I-
was confident. I was feeling it. I was like,
I know, right? It
Yeah.
seems so straightforward.
I might not say much during this whole thing because I'm just meeting these people. I'm about to knock about 50 of these out the sky. I hit like 5.
Dude, it was the hardest thing. I couldn't believe, like, I was the first one up, and I was like, in my head, I'm like, last time I was here, I did well. I
Yeah.
think I did the best. So I better at least hit something. And I went 0 for 13. And then I was like, wow, that was pretty rough. And then Jamar went 0 for 13. And then someone went like 0 and 7 before they hit something. And we were all just like looking around at each other like, gonna be a long day, boys. I think we went through close to 500 to 600 rounds, and I think we probably only hit like 100 targets. It was so bad.
Trevor's gun messed me up.
Yeah.
Because I shot at the rabbit. Well,
For not an actual rabbit,
Yeah,
it's a
yeah,
clay
it's-
that rolls along the ground.
So I shot at that one. Well, then when I cocked it, I left probably about a good 2 inches between the butt of the gun and my shoulder before I shot again. And this thing was like a ultra 12 gauge for some reason, and it just.
Well, it was
How
it was
does
a
the military
grip.
man make that mistake?
It's easy, dude, because it wasn't a normal shotgun; it's a pistol grip. So in your head, you naturally start pulling it away from you because it's a pistol grip.
Okay.
And yeah, because everyone all day had been talking about how awful this gun was to shoot. They're like, dude, it's so painful. It's like, it can't be that much worse than the other 12 gauges. And because of my collarbone, like, I didn't do a lot of 12 gauge until the end of the day. And I've been doing some, and I was like, all right, I can do this. And I pull out the Mossberg, and I'm like all fired up. And the first one, no problem. And I was like, it's because I was really keeping it tight to my shoulder. And then as soon as I looked over at everyone, I was like, guys, the key is hold it tight with your like, hold it as aggressively tight as you can with your hand, but it's got to be tight. Bang! Oh, shit! Oh, ow! It just, like, immediately right into my messed up collarbone. I was like, I got cocky.
Yeah, that thing was a beast. I think, when I cocked it, I had the pistol grip, and I, kind of pushed that forward as I was pulling back.
Yeah.
I don't know why I did that, but, yeah, it just rocked me.
Dude, it's savage. I can't wait to go again. We still have, 500 rounds to go through.
Yeah, I think Toothless Joe probably shoots those one-handed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's another weird story. We show up to the range, and there's this meth head looking dude driving around the range, filling up stations, making sure that things he described himself as 12 volt crazy because he's real into electronics. And so he wires up the machines and makes sure that everything's running right. And I didn't know he was technically a part of the place. And so Mike shows up, and we're a couple stations down, and he walks all the way to us, and we're like, hey, you're going to want safety glasses and earplugs are all in the truck. And he's like, don't want to walk back. And Toothless Joe is like, I got you, buddy. And he drives him over to the truck, and I'll let you take it from here.
Well, I thought he was part of the group. So I'm like, he doesn't really fit in with this crew, but I'm not one to judge people. So I get in. Well, he has all this stuff on the passenger seat, and it's this weird looking hook shaped knife.
Like
and
a
so
raptor claw.
I picked it up and kind of moved it, and so he rips it out of this thing and puts it on my lap. It was, check this damn thing out. And I was like, what the hell is that? And he was like, got it at auction last night. So he's showing me this thing. It's not tactical. It's not even
useful.
Yeah, it's not even useful. It's you hold it like this, and it's just this huge raptor claw that comes around.
And it's only sharp on the side that is closest to your fingers.
Wait, so it's probably for gutting people specifically,
Yeah,
jab it right into the belly button,
yeah.
and then
Yeah.
rip it right up, and then the guts fall out.
Yeah.
Yeah, for person use. But yeah, so he does that, and then I'm weirded out. He takes me to the car, drives me back, and it had to have been 30, 45 minutes in till I realized he wasn't part of the group. And this whole time I'm thinking this guy's weird. This is gonna be an interesting camping trip with this guy. But yeah, then I learned he wasn't part of the trip, and he was just being weird at every station. And then at one point, I thought he was gone. He didn't say anything for a while. And then Gavin hit 2 in a row, and you just hear, hell yeah. From a little ways away.
You're scoping it out.
And I
Hell
was
yeah.
just what's going on? It's funny.
So then JT's gun jams up, and so I take it apart, and I'm like, well, this thing just needs to be oiled. And he's like, I got some oil. You need some? And I was like, actually, yeah, that'd be great. And he leaves to go get it, and it's 15 minutes goes by. Everyone else has had their turns. I'm like, guys, I'll meet you at the next station. I'll just walk back to the shack and see what the deal is. And as I walk up, he pulls up in his truck, and he's like, I can't remember where I left that damn thing. you know what? I think it's on the Caterpillar. There was just this giant front end loader there. And he disappears behind the backside of this front end loader for like 3 to 5 minutes. And I'm still just sitting there like holding the pieces of the gun. Like, why would there be gun oil loose on a front end loader? Like, are you playing hide and seek with yourself? Like, what's happening? And sure enough, he just like pops out from behind one of the like 8-foot tires. Like, I got it. And then I'm like, cool. Like, I'm not mega proficient at guns. Will you make sure that like I can get this together properly? And he's like, actually, you know what? I don't really know much about guns. Let's go to the owner. And we meet the owner of the gun range. Cool dude. It's Quail Run Gun Club. Awesome sport clay spot out in Kiowa. And this guy, I find out later, is retired like federal agent. He was in charge of training every federal agency on gun usage. So he has like a tactical mastery of every single weapon that the federal government uses. It's like some sort of handheld firearm. He's maxed out the certificates for every single one. And so this is where he chose to retire, was this little gun club. And he just grabs this thing and just like, and it's together. And he just starts like cycling through it. And like he's like really checking this thing out. And I was like, wow, like that was really impressive. It's like, I used to work for Remington. And then, I don't know, like an hour later, he comes up real slow like in his truck. And he just kind of like watching us miss every single shot on the easiest one on the entire range too. Like it wasn't, this is the one that like the station is set up as a like, we know you've been having a rough day. Here's some freebies. And we are just missing them all.
The one that shot at you and stalled for like a good 3 seconds?
They both stall like right next to each other, both of the clays, and we're all missing them. And he's like, hey, can I just like make sure it's cycling well, that gun that we put back together? And I was like, sure, like go for it. And he like feels it out once or twice, and none of us are paying any attention. And then this guy blasts off 2 rounds faster than I've ever heard any gun go off. Like this, like cheap Remington pump action. Like it was not meant to be fired like this. I mean, fast, bang, bang isn't as fast as he shot these. Like it was insane. Everyone goes dead still. And he just like hands the gun back to me, quietly walks back to the truck. And we're all just like, you don't get to do that. Why are you so good? And he goes through all this stuff. And he's like, tries again for a little bit, gives up, and then he's like, just one more for the road. Bang, bang! And then just pulls off, drives away. We're like, that is a scary dude, man. As soon as he drives away, Toothless Joe's like, I want to watch someone try and break into his house. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. What a day.
Yeah, Toothless Joe was like analyzing that whole move too. Like he was about to pick it up. I've been meaning how to ask him how to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Like he's just gonna, okay, boom, boom, and like come out there and be good at it.
Oh man, it was
I wouldn't trust Toothless Joe with a Nerf gun.
Well, so and then right as we're leaving, Mike comes up and he's like, "You gonna invite him camping?" And I was like, "No, I swear to God, Mike, don't do that. Don't do that."
Could you imagine him if we were axe throwing with him? Like that hobble.
Yeah, he had like a weird peg leg limp, but he didn't have a peg leg. He was a very strange guy. Nice enough though. Like he seems well-meaning.
It seems like you attract some interesting fellows into your life.
Let's put it on him. I like that.
Yeah, he actually, in ways, he reminded me of that guy. Yeah, that I was stationed with for sure.
All the crazy, just less talent.
The funny thing too is like if you go to different bases, like when I got deployed, so the way like deployments work is the same bases will support the same mission at these deployed locations. So you go there like, because I think he was there for some insane amount of time, but they're like, Little Rock, do you know Lewis? And I'm like, yeah, I do know Lewis. And then they're like, that son of a bitch, he told me this story. And then they would just go off on stories. So this guy was like known,
world famous.
Yeah, he was just like career field famous. And
we need to get Lewis on the podcast.
Yes,
in a remote building. We're not going to let him near our house. It'll be dialed.
2 problems with that. last he told us, he was on tour in South Africa with Blink-182 as the lead security guard.
Wow.
Second,
Just so happens Blink-182 is in town tonight, and I'm going here. And as soon as we finish this,
I'm sure you still saved his crazy ass number and be like, "Yo,
maybe he's there tonight. I don't know,
dude. If he is,
look for the most hardcore guy you've ever seen in your life. He probably has the Michael Jordan earring, the cross earring.
And you don't have his number?
No, I don't anymore.
No, that's
what
probably changed
devastating. Yeah.
He probably just
Deny
has
all the
burner
evidence.
phones. Yeah.
Probably, yeah. Okay.
Second
Michael
issue
Jordan.
with that, he told us that on his last deployment, because he had to go to some training, and so like my job in there,
sensitivity training. Don't lure the new guy into your house and convince him you're gonna murder him and leave him for dead. Send him home drunk.
Wait, the military has sensitivity training now?
Oh, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, there's all kinds of things like that.
You get that much testosterone, and accidentally some lady walks in there, or even just like some normal human being. You want to have manners, not just a bunch of
manners are
testosterone
different than
guns.
No, there's a lot
training.
of like sensitivity training and awareness trainings for everything you could think of.
It's still a government agency. Yeah.
But yeah, so he told us when he went on this training, they took him into SEER, it's survival, evasion, resistance, escape, and that they took him to that training. Only guy in our career field to ever even need to think about doing something like that. They took him into that, so he comes back and he's like, so don't tell anybody. There's like 8 of us in the room, right? Don't tell anybody because no one's supposed to know. But I just did, this, and this for training. I'm the most highly trained, NDI personnel in the Air Force. So we're in the break room during lunch, and so he's like, duct tape my wrists. And so I'm like, okay. What? So I
this is so good.
Duct tape his wrists, and he's like, you ready to watch me break out of this? And I was like, yeah.
Can't wait.
Lifts his arms up and brings them back to his waist really hard, and it's supposed to, I guess, rip the duct tape. Well, the edge is folded, which creates that tension. Yeah. And he just rocked himself in the stomach so hard. Oh. He did the and
just out of breath.
He was just and he looked at it. The duct tape's folded over, and he's like, "We're gonna try it again." And I was like, "No, we don't gotta try anything again." You proved what I was thinking.
So bummed you didn't let him go for round number 2.
Yeah. He did stuff like that. It's like this one guy showed up and he'd invite him over for dinner all the time, and the guy just happened to mention he makes really good pizza. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he's like, he makes awesome pizza. He makes really good pizza. And I was like, are you sure he's making the pizza? He's like, yeah, they're frozen, but he says he just makes them and has them in his, cooler, his freezer. Well, and then upon further investigation, he was buying Papa Murphy's and inviting people over and telling him it was a secret family recipe for ages.
That is incredible.
Well,
who got the intel on the Papa Murphy's?
Well, maybe it was Murphy's. He's Murphy's son.
Yeah.
So
Louis Murphy.
But yeah, no.
My dad's family recipe.
He was that aspect was exhausting and really entertaining, but in the same dude, every time there was a snowstorm or something and he had
that was my ring. I was playing with it. It's probably for the best.
But
almost knocked him right in the face.
I know, man. I thought it was
there's a million ways I can kill you in this room. Ring number 1.
Ring, flower
that hits you in the
vase.
temple, you're going down.
But yeah, he was one of those guys that one guy actually, his appendix burst. We were working with, I don't know, his appendix burst. And it was 3 a.m, and this dude jumped in his truck, drove on base, picked this guy up, drove him to the hospital, and just stayed. He took a couple weeks of leave and just stayed with him. So he was also one of those guys that you could super depend on. You don't know if he's gonna pull a bow and arrow out to defend you, but
he might accidentally murder a nurse, but he'll get you to the hospital.
He'll choke the nurse out, put her outfit on, and just save you.
Exactly.
I don't know.
He's been part of a deep sting operation in the VA. He's been posing as Sharon from accounting.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
But yeah, so there's a lot of interesting people when you branch out like that. Because I was just hung out with the same 6 people for the longest time, and then went out, learned somehow in the military everybody's from the South.
Yeah.
Everybody loves Alabama.
That's why we keep
football. Yeah. That's why we keep it. But yeah, like met all kinds of interesting people, but I met some really cool guys.
Well, it sounds like you're really close with at least a decent chunk of those guys.
Yeah, like I said, just a few I talk to every day. One is in Afghanistan. Talk to him every day. We probably shared upwards of like 20 songs with each other a week. Like, oh man, check this out. So I got like some awesome playlists from him. But then, again, like one of the few people I can have like a pretty serious conversation with about, things like being grateful and stuff. And like, I'm really into writing, and he is too. So like, I'll, bounce some writing ideas off of him. And I met this other guy and his wife. They're awesome. And like the good thing about like the people in the military is like everybody's from somewhere, and so nobody's afraid to fly, Yeah. So like, and I think I might have told you, like for Memorial Day, him and I was telling him I was having a kind of a hard time out here, just getting used to things and not really hanging out with a lot of people. And he's like, well, me and Vinny, we're gonna hop on a plane and just come chill with you for Memorial Day weekend. So they just hopped on a plane, and then like Memorial Day weekend turned out to be like the best weekend I had here in a long time. So
that's awesome.
So it's cool to like have that, and because I don't really talk to anybody here that I used to, and it's like not in a bad way. It's just kind of growing apart kind of thing,
Yeah, you've kind of become a new person.
Yeah.
I mean, Nicole talked about that with her journey from Thailand, like coming home and being like, I have to like reassess where people fit into my life because I'm a new person.
Yeah.
Like the people I thought one thing about our friendship or relationship is now like kind of different.
Mm-hmm.
Plus or minus, like either way.
Yeah, it's definitely true. And I took it really personal, like the first couple months that I was here, and like I hung out with like my best friend growing up, and it was just, we had a few good conversations, but ultimately like throughout the night, like we went downtown, and one thing I hate more than anything is clubs.
Well, good call.
Yeah.
Downtown.
I hate clubs. But yeah, like we were kind of hanging out downtown, and it was like, I'm really like on edge in those situations anyway.
Yeah.
And just kind of like was just very antisocial all night. And, but I mean, that's the things that he likes to do and whatever. But, yeah, we kind of tried to hang out a couple more times and just realized, we're kind of into some different things, and you got, your group of people you're really close with now, and I got mine, and like different interests. It's all good. But, yeah, I just found that I didn't have anything in common with anybody here anymore. But it's
at least the
not a
people
bad
you
thing.
knew before,
The people that I knew before. So
yeah, I mean, I feel like because you've been back in Denver like close to like
it's like
10 months,
7 or 8 months.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine like it's such a different life from what I can understand and what I've heard of like being in the military, regardless of like if you're like out getting shot at or not. Like it is a crazy different lifestyle. Like everything about it is so different that even after 7 years of it, it's like really weird to get back into the groove of like a normal civilian day to day.
Yeah, and like my family was really surprised at first because, like I said, I went through all that time like being super negative about it and like telling my parents I was having such a hard time, I was struggling, like there's no way I'm re-enlisting and all this stuff. Well, those first few months I was really struggling with being back home because like being in Tucson, because I was out 6 months in Tucson.
Okay.
But I associated a lot of those things with the military, had all my military friends around. Working on base was like not that different. They were all ex-military. When I got home, I remember having a conversation with my dad, telling him like, I kind of miss it. Like I kind of feel like I want to go back. And he was like, give it some time, and maybe you're just trying to find yourself here. You've been this person for all this time. Give yourself an opportunity here. And now slowly still I'm kind of like finding my way into my own thing, into like, I want to say this world, but it's like not two different worlds, but it kind of is, you know, because that's something I was used to my whole adult life.
This lens of like civilian versus
right, but now I'm getting into that, finding that, and one of the biggest things I think was, you know, buying a condo. And like, as much as I love spending time with my parents and stuff, living out of like their basement, it was tough because it wasn't mine, you know. And so getting this thing, like having some ownership of something, and then this job that I go to and things like that, and it's just like, okay, now I'm kind of making this home and kind of making this me and what I want it to be. But yeah, it was weird. It was definitely weird coming home.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I mean, we can't relate at all because...
Yeah, I can't relate, but I can imagine. Yeah, for sure.
That was a cool thing about Nicole actually going to Thailand. So like I said, before that, we hadn't seen each other because I went to Korea.
Yeah.
We saw each other once during the year I was there, and before that we didn't really see each other too much. I got back from Korea, and so all that time had gone by, and like we grew up pretty close, but it was all more kind of on like, we were just goofy brother and sister.
Yeah.
You know, and watching sports and
You're
like
living
doing
in the same house, all that stuff.
Yeah. And so, you know, all that, she got done with college and I was gone by that time. And so I come home, we go camping, it was pretty good, and then we're like, hey, why don't we just take a day to go to Estes Park, you and me? And so we get up, like, as we're driving to Estes Park, and even while we're driving to camping, we had some good conversations, and like, there's a side of her that I didn't even like, I was not familiar with, and I don't think she was very familiar with me, because we were having more conversations about like life and, you know, things like that. And I had no idea. I knew she started to get a lot more into like her faith and things like that. But yeah, I'd learned so much about her during that time, and I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. Like, and we had that conversation, like, this is cool. Like, I kind of feel like we have both gone through these things, and it's allowing us to kind of like grow closer in a way that probably we didn't even know, you know, we could.
You probably didn't even have the chance of before.
No.
Because now you've kind of gone through these. You both kind of came home at similar times.
Yeah.
And were like adjusting to life back home at the same time. So I feel like God's timing, he was like, well, you'll get a buddy to go through it with, like someone to kind of understand the feeling of like, these are all the people that I've loved my entire life that now sometimes I don't think I can anymore. Like, yeah,
because I got to Arizona, and I think she left in like what, October?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
So yeah, she left in October, and I think the whole time she was in Thailand, we maybe talked 2 times. And, you know, so she was doing that whole thing, and then I was in Arizona until, you know, February, and then, you know, we ended up hanging out and talking again and stuff, and it's like, she was telling me a lot of things she was struggling with being back home, and like, I know one big thing was like, people in Thailand weren't as privileged, you know, as right here, and same with South Korea. Like, a lot of them, you know, weren't as privileged as the things that we have here, and we're talking about that, and it was just like all kinds of other stuff, and it's just like, holy crap, it's somebody I grew up with since I was like, you know, 6 years old, and had no idea that you are this person. And then like all the last 3 or 4 years have gone by, and I've seen you a handful of times. But, you know, now we're to this point, and it's like almost like not meeting a new person in a way, but it's like seeing, like, I've probably seen more growth in her than I have any of my siblings.
Yeah.
And so like talking to her is really cool, and I've told her multiple times, like, I'm so proud of her. Like, I'm so proud of like the things that she pushed herself to do, get out of her comfort zone, and like just the person that she is. So
yeah, it's like seeing someone old in a new way,
right?
Or seeing something new and surprising in someone that you've known your whole life. And like,
yeah,
I think that people are like diamonds, and we can refract or reflect. I don't know, science. You can reflect, or you can shine whatever light whatever color of light through it, but it all just depends on the angle in which you have it tilted. And I think that's all people. Like, that was a big deal for me when I got married. I was like, I don't know if I can like handle living with the same person for the rest of my life. Like, that's crazy. And then someone was like, you haven't gotten sick of any of your friends? I was like, yeah, but they surprise me. Like, every night I learn something new about them, or we go do something new and we experience it together. And they're like, why would this be any different? And I was like, oh, like, just because you know someone, or you've known someone, or even yourself, right? Like, your whole life you knew yourself as this one person, and then all of a sudden this shift of like, oh, I'm going to think more positively, and you're learning stuff about yourself. Or I remember going through versions of myself as I like figured that all out. And I know Dylan, I'm sure, is when he goes to Asia is going to go through the same thing of like essentially learning things about yourself of like, oh, this is actually more important to me than I thought, or this actually isn't all that important to me, or this person is important to me that I wouldn't have guessed. That's pretty awesome. That's cool that you guys get to share that together.
Yeah. Yeah, and like you said, like learning this different version of yourself too, because like when I got to Arkansas, you know, first time I've ever been away from home on my own, and I'm like trying to find myself in there, and then picked up some bad habits and like, you know, drinking and things like that, and kind of was in a crowd of friends that, you know, I was good friends with them, but you know, as I moved on to my next base, kind of shifted away from that, and it was like kind of my opportunity, like, okay, I wasn't totally happy with the person that was there, but I'm in a whole new place right now. None of these people know me. I have an opportunity to kind of just like reset and start back over. Well, in Korea, one thing there, everybody loves to drink, and it's like one of the only things to do. So
people
like,
don't know that, but Koreans drink like the world is on fire.
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Right outside of base, more bars than you can imagine, and like you can ride the train with a drink in your hand. You can go there, get a beer for $2, and then they have soju as their alcohol. Doesn't taste like anything. You can mix it with like orange juice or a Go-Gurt. Like, you never know. Like, and you just get messed up, right?
Alcoholic Go-Gurt.
Yeah, but it's like that. You can get that for $5 or $15 for a cup and drink all night. And it's like, if you don't want to travel and go see things, that is literally footsteps away. And so it just is one of those things.
Yeah.
And so, you know, that I wasn't totally happy with Korea, and then got to Arizona, and like I said, a couple of the people there are just awesome people, and learned a lot from them. And then, you know, came back home, and then being around my parents, very important to be a good, you know, role model and example for my little sister. And that was kind of what I meant, like, excited to be becoming the man that I've always thought I would be, because all these years I feel like I've been trying to find that, and now I feel like I'm surrounded myself with the right people and look at life the right way and have done things all the right way, that are, in my opinion, the right way. And
yeah, at least right for you.
Yeah, right for me. And so, yeah, everything's just coming together. And I remember, so my grandmother passed away when I was 15, and she was like the most important person in the world to me, and I've struggled with that a long time. And like, one of my biggest things was, you know, I want to make her proud, but I want to get to the point where because she'd always make excuses for me, and then I want to get to the point where I don't feel like I'm doing something that she would have to make an excuse for me. And so I kind of look at everything like that, and I guess I'm getting to that point now that I feel like, can I wake up today, or can I go to bed tonight and say, would she be proud of the person that I am? Is there any reason that she'd ever have to make an excuse for me? And I finally feel like I'm at the point where, like, I don't feel like she'd have to make excuses for anything that I do. I'm happy with everything that I'm doing, happy with the person that I am, and I think she would be too. And so it's like, that's kind of what I was leaning towards for like that comment about, you know, being excited about becoming the man that I've always thought I'd be. So
That's awesome.
I mean, yeah, you can't ask for anything better than that, honestly, I think.
No. I mean, yeah, that's like the entire male journey is what you just described of like becoming the man you thought that you would be. Well, that's a great place to call it. I know Dylan's got a Blink-182 concert to make it to. He's itching.
Be careful. You don't know if that guy's there.
You don't know if the head of
I
security is a
hope he
maniac.
is. Oh my gosh, that would be the coolest thing ever.
Oh, man.
Lewis, is that who I'm looking for?
Bobby Lewis, but
Bobby
he
Lewis.
goes by Bullet. And I'm not lying. I'm not lying.
Bobby Lewis
God.
goes by Bullet.
Yes, write this down.
Dang.
That's amazing.
Probably in a leather vest, if I were to bet on
Shirtless in a leather vest?
it. I don't know. See, the thing is, I don't know. He's a wild card.
Yeah. That's
He
amazing.
could just be shirtless. I don't know.
Dude.
If this actually happens, this will make my life. Like, if I can meet
dude.
Bobby Lewis
That'd
at
be
a
good
Blink-182 concert and tell him I just got finished hearing the stories about how awesome he is.
Yeah, he'd be pumped. He'll probably tell you some more weird stories about his family's secret Italian pizza recipe.
I sure hope so.
Probably.
Well, we always end on the same question of
Okay.
when you think of joy, whether it's the word joy, whether it's a moment of joy, what comes to mind? Like, it doesn't have to be like a good story or anything. Like, this is just for you.
When I think of joy, I think of what I was explaining on the golf course, is when I can look up and something like that, look up, look around me, and just have that moment of like, wow, I cannot believe that I am here right now and I'm living the life that I get to live. And that to me is like my biggest moment of joy all the time.
Boom.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, just gratitude.
Yep.
That's the key, man. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining
Thank you.
us. This is like,
Thank you guys for
I
having
remember
me.
literally we're all having campfire conversations. And I was like, as soon as I'm back from Cleveland, first guest, it's going to be Mike. And worked perfect. So thanks for coming.
And I appreciate you guys.
And, yeah, man. Excited to keep the train rolling with more shenanigans. Just because the bachelor party's over, it doesn't mean we have to stop doing dope stuff. Well, word, man.